One of the things that waste yarn grafting can do for you is allow you to make some very daring rescues and or significant alterations in patterned knitting. So this piece of knitting has a bit of a problem. Something bad happened. How unfortunate. So we have knitting with a serious problem and we want to repair it perfectly. This could also be a situation where we want to lengthen the knitting, in which case you wouldn't actually make an incision, but we'll consider both situations. So now what I have to do is unpick and drop away this lower piece of knitting. I'm just going to pick back stitch by stitch along this row until I've dropped this lower piece of knitting off the bottom. If this were a planned insertion of extra length into a project, I obviously wouldn't make a drastic hole such as I did just then. I would just cut one thread of each of the colours and pick it back stitch by stitch. So I'm dropping away the lower edge. This can be done flat or in the round, which is the most likely situation if you're working with ferrule. Just take that row out. So this is the existing top piece and this is the underneath piece. And in the event of a disaster such as a burn or the dreaded moth hole, you want to pick this back however many rows or rounds until you get to the last intact round of stitches. I've completed getting rid of the partial rows or where there's any damaged yarn, and I've got a row of intact stitches. Now I can rebuild this. So this is the direction of knitting, so I could take my original yarns and add several inches if I wanted to. So if this is a sweater you're trying to lengthen, I could pop in 3 more repeats. As this is just a swatch, I'm not going to actually add any extra fabric here, but I am going to plan my join to the top fabric. So I've actually finished this piece of knitting on the round where the middle diamond is a blue stitch. That is that round there. So it's a blue central stitch, 2 white stitches, a blue stitch. This means that I can join this piece of knitting to this piece of knitting by sewing in the row above it. So the next row above that would be a white stitch, that one. So that's the row that I've got to copy. So first of all, I'm going to put my waste yarn on this lower edge. If I wanted to replace the damaged area or add an extra couple of repeats to this, I would add my repeats in pattern or replace the damaged area in pattern before putting the waste yarn on. For my waste yarn, I'm just choosing a brightly contrasting, similar weight yarn to the original. And I'm going to work 5 rows of stocking stitch before binding off or slipping the stitches onto their own tail.